Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are all doing really well. I'm very excited for today's video. I've got a special guest here on my channel, Shajil, but he's got experience working within the risk management space, within financial services. He's got Big Four banking experience and Big Four consulting experience as well. He was my ex-manager at my banking job prior to obviously me quitting. So he's a very senior level sort of executive, and I'm so honored to be interviewing him today, asking him a few questions. So without further ado, let's just jump into the video. Hi everyone, it gives me great pleasure to announce today's special guest, Shajil. But Shajil is a senior risk and assurance leader with experience within the financial services space. He's very much experienced within the risk management space, control, enhancements, and issue remediation. Now, this is something I got from your LinkedIn profile. So a little bit about how I actually know Shajil. So Shajil was actually my my manager at my previous workplace at Westpac, which is one of the Big Four banks here in Australia, and he actually interviewed me for the role, and he was my manager, and it was honestly such a pleasure working with Shajil. Great people leader, really understands people, behaviors, and really just makes me really just made me feel welcome, you know, into the team when I did start off, because I felt I was very junior in the role as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I know Shajil. So I will now pass it over to you. If you can maybe just introduce yourself, you know, what are you doing now? What did you previously do, and your Big Four experience and, you know, qualifications as well.
Sure. Thank you, Sahna. First of all, thank you for inviting me, and absolutely excited to join your channel and share some of my experience. Thank you for that. So Sana, in terms of what I'm doing now, I'll start with that. So at the moment, I'm trying to set up a company, Assurance HQ. In my experience working with a number of organizations, what I've experienced is a large number of organizations don't really have a mature internal control environment. Largely they are undocumented, or the assurance provider that is not good enough. So my company is looking to provide specific services where I can help them, address those gaps. But previous to this venture, I was with the AMP. I've also worked with Westpac, with yourself, but have a previous experience working with CBA, Citibank, and then a number of Big Four audit firms as well, namely EY and KPMG. So mix of experience, both with the practice and the industry. Have the pleasure that my career spans across all the three lines of defense. So I've worked with internal audit, I've worked with second line and first line as well. So really a diverse experience there. And in terms of qualification, yes, primary qualification remained being a chartered accountant, which I did from Pakistan. But I also managed to complete additional certification throughout my career as well, around internal audit, certified information system auditor, certified fraud examiner, and certified audit analyst as well.
Nice. You've got a variety of experiences there. And you obviously learned a lot over your years, and I feel like this is a great interview for the people who obviously watch my channel. A lot of knowledge to gain from your experience. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we are now going to jump into some of the questions which were asked over on my Instagram page. So I actually put up on my Instagram for my audience to ask questions. So I did a little bit of an introduction, and these are questions specifically targeted to you, Shajil. So they were very interested in knowing, your experiences, what you think is the future of finance, and a little bit about cryptocurrency as well, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. So in no particular order, I'm just going to start off. So the first question that I received, and this was a very popular question, is what are some of the positive qualities that you want to see in a consultant or a recent graduate when you look to hire them?
Yeah, I think for me, the most important is the motivation level. for them. Their eagerness during the interview process, when they ask questions about the role, about the team, and broader the organization. And that's where the engagement really starts. So I'm really, really looking for that click.
Yeah, okay. Right, thank you for that. And in terms of experience, what do you think is sort of valued more? So if you're hiring, obviously, for a banking role, would you look at someone that has Big Four consulting experience, or would you value someone that has banking experience?
So both. I think personally, having gone through and experienced both sides of the picture, for me, the professional practice experience is gold. It's simply gold because the level of experience you get offered, working with variety of clients, diversity of risk consulting, and all that, it is amazing. And that platform actually not help you build your technical experience, but also your soft skill as well, in terms of how you are engaging with stakeholders, how we are negotiating stuff, presenting stuff, and so forth. For me, that's the key. And then if you are much more mature and you have worked in the sector, then it's quite typical in the Australian market that the relevant industry experience is relevant. I typically tend to explore broader than financial services as well to bring that diversity in the team. But yes, the first priority is banking and financial services.
Yes, yeah, thank you. In terms of a little bit about the interview and application process, I know that, the application process is handled mainly by HR and the recruitment team, but what do you think you could give in terms of some tips for, interviewees and submitting their application to really get that seen by hiring managers? And in terms of future the future world of interviewing, do you think that process is going to evolve?
So in terms of my advice for people to prepare for the interview, I think the most important thing is planning. And we have heard that a number of times, but really for me, what it really means is plan for the potential interview questions somebody's going to ask. Write the response down so you are fully prepared. Articulate your responses in the sense that, you are providing them examples where you can expand on your experience, collaborate, and give a powerful message back to the team. And again, ask questions, and end of the interview, there's always opportunity for you to ask questions, show your motivation for the role so that, the person can see the interest you're going for. Over the years, as you can see, there's more and more candidates applying for a single role. So the interview process has to evolve, and it is evolving over the last few years as well. Now, if you look at a particular role, you'll see 50 plus candidates applying for the same role, and more or less all of them have exactly the same experience. Sometimes you have like 5-10 candidates coming from a particular Big Four practice, and it's very hard to differentiate which one is different. Over the years, what the HR functions are doing is they are looking at people's social presence, either through LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, and try to gauge how they are from a personality perspective. And they are bringing those criteria to the mix as well for the selection as well. I think next, expect that people will be asked questions about their profiles during the interview as well. Don't be surprised whether those interviews will start getting recorded, because people are asking for feedback, right? And what the best way to provide feedback is to say, here's your call and this is what you said, and probably the right response was not this.
Yes, yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you've said there. Do you think that if you were obviously hiring for a role, do you think that you would select or hire a person that's got limited experience but can show that they've got a good attitude towards picking up and learning new things, and they've got a personality, over someone that's got extensive experience but doesn't show the attitude or the right sort of willingness to learn?
Yes, absolutely. My preference is always take somebody who is fresh or limited experience, because if they are demonstrating a high level of motivation, that journey goes a long way for building up a career or building up a team as well. I've often seen that, you end up hiring people who are much more experienced for the role just because they wanted the role, or from your perspective, you thought that, they would start working on from day one. But 6 months down the track, they are already looking for other roles and opportunities. So that's not good for your team as well, not good for individuals as well.
Yeah. Okay. I know with obviously like my interview with yourself, I only had the limited, Big Four experience for about a year and a half, 2 years. I'm not gonna, toot my own horn or anything, but I think I did show motivation in the role and eagerness to
absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, you were eager, you were motivated, your articulation to your responses were excellent.
Thank you, Shajil. Okay, moving on to the next question. So I have here, how did you know that you didn't want to become partner? So you said you had Big Four consulting experience. So what was the shift and what sort of triggered that movement, to step away and get into the industry?
I have over like 25 years of experience overall, and probably like 50% of that is in a professional firm and predominantly Ernst & Young. I did spend a little bit of time in KPMG as well, but predominantly EY. But at the time I moved out of EY, and probably you can think about as old school thinking, I was under the impression that I was more of an SME, a technical expert. I was good in IFRS, good in audit methodology, used to run a lot of technical workshops, training workshops, and so forth. So I never thought that, these attributes will take me all the way up to a partnership level. In my mind, the partnership was all about people who are good in marketing and selling, who can bring in business and dollars and really contribute to the firm's development, right? And that's probably a misconception which led me to believe that, I should not see myself long-term in the profession. But in reality, if I look at the organizations right now, the Big Four practice, I see technical audit partners. I see partners who have done training and methodology development, and they are quite sophisticated in terms of how they network across industry bodies and practices to make sure the best practices are being applied. So any shape form, if you have the commitment or drive and motivation, I think that whether it's a Big Four or any mid-tier firm, they will definitely support you to bring your career all the way up to a partner.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good you mentioned that, because TV shows like Suits always sort of portray the image of, everyone moving up towards partner level, aspiring to become a partner, but it's not for everyone. Everyone's got different interests, different skills that they can bring, and that may not be within that partner sort of space.
All right. And while I'm trying to set up my own practice over here, I'm trying to test my skills, whether do I have the partnership skills? Can I run this company as an entrepreneurial and see how it goes?
Yeah.
So everyone has some elements. They just need to work on that.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. We've got another question here. So what is the biggest reason that you think has attributed to being able to rise the ranks? And obviously, you've worked through the corporate world and now you're running your own company, your own sort of risk management practice. So what do you have to say, how do you get to this level?
I think the key for any success, and especially for myself, like rising through the ranks and all of that, is networking and the stakeholder engagement. I think what is important is you respect your stakeholders, you understand what they want, when they want, and how they want. And then you keep on delivering on those expectations. You will have plenty of opportunities to wow them through your insights, through your reporting, through your dashboards. And that's where you want to build that brand of you, which will automatically take you to the next level. And what I have seen is like, I've always asked my question, am I the person where my stakeholder will pick up the phone and ask question, or is it my boss? Okay, how I can switch that role where I'm the first point of contact for them. And that's where you need to work on your brand and, raise the ranks.
Yes, yeah, no, I think that's a great point there. A lot of people generally think that, doing the work, always, completing deadlines is the main reason you can go up the ranks and one of the ways you can get up. But I think networking, stakeholder engagement, showing your personality and making those connections is very important.
Yeah, I always remember this one thing where EY used to stand for is quality in everything we do. They changed that motto year on year, but the one which stuck to my mind is quality in everything we do. Is like you can have a script written on a piece of paper, which could be a report. You could have a fancy dashboard, or you have an insight or an infogram, right? You decide what will really wow the stakeholder, and they will remember you for that, and you need to bring that.
Yes, no, very well said there. We've got a question here around when you think is the best time to leave an organization. So this can be either quitting or transitioning into a new role or changing organizations completely. When do you think is the right time one should leave and make that move?
I think it's slightly different because it works different for everyone. For me, I always gauge few physical factors and few emotional factors, right? For me, the physical factors are like your team, your immediate bosses, your stakeholders, the flexibility the organization offers, the technology in which it operates. And then there's other motivators as well, like what experience are you getting? Is that experience of a particular industry you were looking for, or the exposure at a level where it is senior enough for you to continue to train and motivate yourself. And obviously there are other drivers like money, training, and development. I think an individual should always continue to evaluate those drivers. And if things change significantly because now there's an external offer out there, which is much more better compared to what you currently are, I think it's time to leave. But as long as you can articulate those motivators clearly, you'll always be making the right decision that, it's the right time to move on.
Yeah, agree there. Thank you. Another question we've got here. So how do you enjoy life with a Big Four pressure job? And how do you manage burnout culture, especially in the financial services industry?
I think I've heard that a lot in terms of this burnout and pressure. And I think for me, when I look at it, unreasonable deadlines, insufficient resources, budget's not there, lack of capabilities. I feel that they're all excuses. The real cause of this is that you have not done effective planning, or you had poor engagements and reporting side of things, that you have not escalated what are the real challenges of actually delivering or not delivering a particular project. So if you've done it correctly, you will not end up in a pressure situation. But if you do end up in a pressure situation or where you need to end up managing tight deadlines, I think, again, the important bit is how you are networking with your stakeholders, escalating the bottlenecks, and engaging them to reassess the timelines. If you do that on a frequent enough basis, on a timeliness basis, people understand whether that is possible or not. And they would understand whether additional resources are required, additional funding is required to rethink whether that's deliverable or not. There's a constant, I think, a challenge between your stakeholders, that you're communicating what you're in. Nobody is expecting you to deliver 48 hours in a 24-hour day, right? It's how you communicate and position yourself.
Yes, I think some people who work in the audit field at a Big Four consulting firm may disagree. I feel like some people might say, I've put my hand up, I've told them that I can't complete this work, yet I'm almost having to stay in the office overnight to complete, a particular task. So do you think it comes down to the organization and the values and how that's sort of portrayed?
Absolutely. And more specifically from an internal audit side of things as well. I mean, you may have heard that, organizations are now transiting into an agile internal audit approach, where if you finish your work at 5 o'clock, somewhere in KPMG or across the globe, there's a team who's waking up. They can pick up your work and start working on it as well. So organizations are now thinking about those agile model, not just looking at the diversity of bringing in the technical expert side, but just the resource availability to deliver that work as well. So you still will be able to finish your 9 to 5 work, but somebody else will pick it up because that work needs a 48 hours or 24-hour turnaround.
Yes, that's really good. I don't know if has that already been implemented, that kind of model?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are doing it for last 4 years now. There was a recent Deloitte report. I'm happy to share that, which people are exploring how they can use cross-border resources to deliver on that. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that, Shajil is working on an audit, but, there's somebody in Bahrain who wants Shajil expertise because that's more relevant to an engagement they want to deliver, and they can pretty much pay it off. So it's there.
Okay, interesting. Right. Next question we have here is tips for playing the politics at an organization. What are your thoughts on this?
I think we can't be away from politics, right? I mean, every organization, depending on the culture of that organization, there are always politics, right? There are always some heavyweights there. There are always people with one side of thinking, which they want to implement and all of that. Just to manage and probably what relevant at our level, I always ask my team that, they should always have 3 people in their mind who will give them the next role. Okay. And these are the people I want them to make sure they have good engagement, they have good relationship management. I always ask them what's the level of their relation and how they want to improve that relation. So sometimes to play politics, they need to go and present to them information, whether they're positive or negative, and then probably align their view accordingly as well, right? So they need to work on that and be part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Now, the next question we have here is, for someone that doesn't actually have any experience within the finance industry or no background in finance, where would you suggest for them to start if they want to get into maybe the banking industry? What should they do?
I always thought getting into a professional practice gives you a depth of experience and all that, and it's never too late to join a professional firm. I mean, you don't have to join as a grad. There are always some experienced hire as well, and you can find your way getting involved in finance, risk, or consulting side. The reason why I always prefer getting into professional practice compared to a bank side is they can rotate you around through different teams and functions and give you that experience. If you get into a bank, you are more likely to stick to a one department, which will have very specific experience and processes which you'll get familiar with. So try to get into a professional practice. If you are unlucky with the big 4, even mid-tier are equally sophisticated. So try that.
Yes, I think even if you don't get through to a big 4 consulting firm, I think even starting at a bank in a very entry-level position and then working your way up, I think is a good way, because that's how I started. I started actually working in a call center at CBA, and that really helped me for my application for, KPMG, and then, working my way up. So starting even the lowest level, I think any experience is good experience.
I remember from my KPMG days, there were a couple of partners. One was they went all the way to the partnership level, right? But one was actually a marine biologist. And the other had some armed forces background. So once they had retired, they decided, accountancy is what they wanted to do, and they wanted to be a KPMG partner, and they moved roles completely.
Oh, wow.
So there's no to these organizations with your skill set, and then with the right motivation and drive, you can go.
Yeah, it's all very possible if you really want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming up to our last question, let me tell you, Shajil, I got this question a lot of times. This was one of the most sort of popular questions. I thought I'd leave it towards the end because, it's a little, controversial. I don't know how you what your stance is on this, but how scared are you that Bitcoin is dominating the banking industry? And do you actually own any cryptocurrency of your own? What do you think the sentiment is, on crypto from a traditional finance perspective?
First of all, the clarity is I don't own any Bitcoins. So I'm a very, very conscious investor. But if I really think about it, crypto's been there since 2009, 2010. So been 10, 11 years already. And if you see how much they have come up, it's not significant, right? You will hear that, some bank is thinking about start transaction in crypto, a cafe is trying to take Bitcoins or whatever. But there's still a lot needs to be done, both in terms of its acceptance from a regulatory perspective. And then obviously there's a heap of taxation impacts which needs to be considered. And people are still trying to explore that. I read a few article some time back on PwCs defining some accounting policies and regulation around how to start recording that as well. There's a huge uptake. Yes, a number of my friends have invested in crypto, but none of them is a millionaire. Do they really understand the market conditions or the elements which drives the value? No. I think the volatility of these cryptocurrency still make it, it's not a thing which a common investor will invest in. So it might be like 5 to 7 years away, where people will completely move into, you go into calls and you decide, okay, fine, I'm going to pay for my Bitcoins. So it's still away.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Well, there you have it, everyone. Those are Shajil's sort of insights into cryptocurrency, but everything else that we did discuss as well around, career, moving up the corporate ranks, and interview and application style questions and how to really, prove yourself in an interview. So that is where we are going to leave it today. I really hope everyone enjoyed it. Again, thank you so much, Shajil, for taking the time out and, sharing your insights, your knowledge. You have, as you said, 25 years of experience. I know my audience will definitely appreciate this. So thank you, Shajil. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, and I really, really good time talking to you, and I wish all the best to you and your viewers in their careers and all that.
Thank you so much. Okay guys, that is the end of today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know Shajil had a lot of insight to provide. I hope that was really helpful for you guys and you learned a little bit more about, the financial services world, what's required, how to move up the ranks, interview tips and application tips so that you can get through. And if you've got no finance experience, then what you should do. But that's it guys, I'm gonna leave it here and I will catch you guys in my next video. Thanks guys.